Rewriting history from attempted assassination denial to Kamala's failures and radical policies, we have never witnessed in real time such a psyop on the American people. We're keeping the spotlight on Trump's safety or lack thereof with today's guests, as well as all of our security after the conflict in the Middle East is reaching a fever pitch. I'm Kristi Leigh with the Counter Narrative.
Side.
We will have some deep analysis on the attempted assassination of Trump coming up with author of The Real RFK Jr., Dick Russell, shortly, as well as alarming revelations of the cover-up with the CEO of Liberation Technology Services. But first, today's top headlines. As you've heard by now, I'm sure a top Hamas leader is taken out. It's the latest in the escalating war between Israel and terrorists in Gaza. The political leader of Hamas and one of his bodyguards have been killed after their residence in the Iranian capital of Tehran was targeted in an unknown attack, according to Town Hall. He was targeted in the country's capital city after Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei boasted about the visit. There's already retaliation being threatened, so eyes to the skies and pray. We can be assured that opposition never will let a crisis go to waste, right? Anything to secure the steal this November. In election news, Kristi Leigh, who was a victim of disenfranchised voters in her run for governor of Arizona, has secured the Republican nomination for Arizona Senate. Just the News reports she will now face Democrat Gallego this fall. Let's see if Arizona can get their election security and process in order before then. We'll remain hopeful now that this crook is out. Stephen Richer, who's been a fierce defender of the integrity of Maricopa County. It's hard to say integrity and Maricopa County elections in the same sentence. He's been a fierce defender of that. Since he was elected as county recorder in 2020, he has now lost a Republican primary to keep that role, according to a race called by the Associated Press. Now, in other news, totally different direction, but this caught my eye. Parents, we have got to be on the highest of alert. Our children are not safe in the schools. There is no accountability for a child that was given unauthorized medical care. From 100% Fed Up, a 6-year-old child received COVID-19 shot without parental consent. State Supreme Court rules family cannot sue school district. You know, the summary of this story is basically a father clued the 6-year-old kid in. There's this vaccination effort at school today. You are not to get one. Did his due diligence. And somehow the child ended up with a different name tag on, and they went to give the shot to the child who protested and said, no, daddy says no. But instead of calling and, just verifying or anything, they went ahead and gave the shot. And the parents had to find out about it later. It was an error. But yeah, they just get away with this free and clear. I mean, the rationalization is the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness, you know it as the PrEP Act, which provides liability immunity. In the event of a public health emergency, the PrEP Act ensures certain covered persons are immune from claims causally related to the use of a covered countermeasure. A vaccine is considered a covered countermeasure. Very disappointing news, very scary as a parent. Representative Thomas Massey had this to say in response: the PrEP Act is medical malpractice martial law and should be repealed. It supersedes all state tort laws and allows cronies at pharmaceutical and medical device companies to literally get away with murder as long as their victims can't prove there was malicious intent. Be forewarned, they intend to use this defense in their sinister plans for the next plandemic, the bird flu. RFK Jr. says the U.S. government has ordered 4.8 million doses of bird flu vaccine, despite there having been only a total of 11 cases of bird flu in the U.S. since 2022, all mild, most involving just conjunctivitis, and none shown to have been transmitted human to human. But yet we're already preparing to have immunity from liability with a vaccine that's not even needed yet. Probably not needed at all. But anyways, Moving on to the assassination attempt on former president and GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump, all attempts are being made to erase this historic foiled plan, including any accountability for it. Watch this heated exchange between Josh Hawley and the new Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe.
You, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly persecuted?
Unfairly,
we've got people
sir,
who are dead.
Perfect response. The Secret Service, a federal agency, is talking about being persecuted when someone died that day. Let's not forget that. Corey Competore died that day. A couple others were critically injured that day because of very many disturbing questions that we're all trying to sort through. And not only is there lack of weight given to the gravity of what we all witnessed that only happened weeks ago, but they're all in it to CYA, cover it up. I mean, it's astonishing to see. Here to discuss is Dick Russell, the author of 16 books on a wide variety of subjects, ranging from the Kennedy assassination to biographies of James Hillman and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Thank you so much for joining me, Dick. Russell, I am so interested to hear your take on all of this madness. I mean, because you've covered the history of the JFK assassination and everything, could you have ever predicted we'd see an assassination attempt downplayed within only a couple of weeks?
Well, no. It's one of those things where the Secret Service clearly seems to have messed up. The guy was seen on the roof, prior to the assassination, and they just didn't have the area covered very well. And of course, if we go back to the assassination of President Kennedy way back in 1963, which I've written several books about, there were people with fake Secret Service credentials on the grassy knoll. The Secret Service may have had a role in changing the motorcade route at that time. Douglas Dillon, he was the Secretary of the Treasury, and so therefore he was in charge of the Secret Service technically, and definitely not a Kennedy fan, and indeed may have been involved to some degree in a conspiracy to assassinate him. So, these kinds of things have gone on in the past. We had 4 assassinations in the 60s, and I think we're all linked in the sense that the same forces went after the Kennedys and also Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And, today we're seeing a situation that we just don't really know what happened or whether this kid was part of something bigger.
Well, we did show that short clip of that heated exchange between Josh Hawley and the Secret Service director. But, many of the American public are kind of sick of just seeing so much talk and not enough action, no accountability, not a lot of things actually happening. And one of the parallels that you see is a problem with which I'm sure you wrote about, with the Kennedy assassination, was basically you had an agency investigating itself. You had some suspect players, we'll say, that were supposedly investigating themselves. And we kind of get that same impression with this. The FBI, the same FBI that raided Mar-a-Lago and covered for the Hunter Biden laptop, now they take over the Secret Service potential malfeasance. And so it just seems laughable at this point. Do you see those parallels?
Well, it's unclear, but I definitely can say that back in 1963, when President Kennedy was assassinated, immediately the FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, was talking to President Johnson about how do they put the lid on this, set up some kind of body which became the Warren Commission that would basically say, okay, this guy Lee Harvey Oswald did it. He acted alone. He was crazy. Fired 3 shots from the window of the Texas School Book Depository in 6.2 seconds, which was pretty much impossible. And then the CIA director, Alan Dulles, the former CIA director who had been fired by Kennedy because of his role in the Bay of Pigs and other things, was on the Warren Commission to basically keep a lid on things. And they came out with the narrative that Oswald did it alone, and we now know today that that is far from the truth. That it was a conspiracy to assassinate the president. Pretty much the entire American public knows that. So this is not something that is going to go has gone away, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, there's not a lot of promise of getting all the answers, because here we are years and years later with still not all of the answers when it comes to the JFK assassination. And so, it doesn't give us much hope for getting all of the answers in this case. But you noted the similarity of they based it on a lone gunman. Many call Oswald a patsy. We're hearing a lot of that now, because it's like instantly they were able to identify this person that had no ID, and pretty much right after say he acted alone, which is strange considering all the other questions they didn't have answered at that point. Have you made any comparisons or parallels based on your understanding of the JFK assassination when it comes to the narrative that came out immediately following this attempted assassination attempt on Trump?
Well, it's just pretty weird, I mean, who was this kid, and did he come out of nowhere or not, and how did he spend so much time on that roof before anybody saw him? So, well, they actually saw him, and then they didn't do anything about it. I mean, the Secret Service director, as we know, did resign after she testified before Congress. But I don't know. I think there should be more of an investigation happening into this, and I can't say exactly whether there are more parallels or not, but you did have someone firing with a rifle, a high-powered rifle that, in this case, barely missed, hit President Trump in the ear. And was this guy a patsy? Was he set up by somebody else? We just don't know at this point.
Now let's switch our attention to another candidate that has been under deep threat from the beginning. RFK Jr., you're the author of The Real RFK Jr. It was so grotesque that for so long RFK Jr. was denied Secret Service protection, considering his family history. He now has it. But as you said, we saw basically a cluster of assassinations during that time of the JFK assassination. And so, again, if we follow the adage of history can repeat itself, do you think that there is still reason to believe that there will be other assassination attempts and RFK Jr. is also still under threat?
Well, I think he is still under threat, and it to me was abominable that President Biden would not grant him Secret Service protection. There were 2 attempts already on his life. One of them in Los Angeles. This guy was stopped with a high-powered weapon. Luckily, his private security stopped the guy from getting into the event that he was attending, and somebody else climbed the wall at his house. And still, he wasn't given Secret Service protection until the situation occurred with President Trump. So there's no excuse for that, and especially given the family history. And what it was a ploy, I believe, by the Democrats, once Bobby went independent, of course, to force him to spend millions of dollars basically on private security that then he couldn't put into trying to get ballot access and into his campaign. So it's really a terrible thing, and I'm glad he's got Secret Service protection now. I think he still has the private security as well, and hopefully that'll protect him.
Now, no matter who anyone supports, I don't know how anyone can take a step back and watch what has happened and not recognize how abhorrent that was to deny him Secret Service. And then to that end, again, no matter who you support, I don't know how anyone can't at least admire RFK Jr.'s persistence and his ability to make so much progress against the lawfare to keep him off of the ballots. How do you see him doing in this presidential race as all of these changes have happened? And, we're seeing a lot of efforts to rewrite history when it comes to Kamala, to hide the assassination attempt when it comes to Trump, and basically hide RFK Jr.'s run. Like, the media barely even acknowledges it. So what is your take on all of that? I threw a lot at you. I'm sorry.
My take is that he's very dangerous to the status quo, to the two-party system. He didn't want to leave the Democratic Party, but he was forced out because they wouldn't really allow any kind of real opportunity for him in the primaries. So I was sitting with him one day when he told me that he was going to have to run as an independent. And we've only had one independent president in history. That was George Washington. But Bobby's polling very well. I mean, he's polling close to 20%, and he's also getting on the ballot in so far more than 30 states, and he's intending to do it in all 50. And the polls show that 51% of the American people do not like the two-party system anymore because it's so corrupt, and on both sides. And so that he would have a shot if they would let him into the debates. People could see who he is and see how he's a fighter for the middle class of this country and against the corporate interests that have dominated for many, many years now. The agencies have been captured, the NIH, the FDA, the EPA, by these powerful, the pharmaceutical lobby, for example, is the biggest in Washington, D.C., bigger than the oil and gas industry. And we know what they've done to our country. I mean, look at what happened with COVID, as you talked about in your introduction. So, I think he's still got a chance because anything could happen this year. And we'll see if neither candidate, gets 270 electoral votes, then this election goes to the House of Representatives. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the party in power in the House is going to have the final say. So, he could come out of nowhere and still become president. I mean, I hope they'll let him into the next debate, and we'll see what happens, because I believe people would see that this guy's a real fighter for the people and against the corruption that dominates those two parties.
Well, I would say advantage, I guess, of the media not putting too much attention on him is that I think it really does, if you take a step back, set him apart as someone that is talking more about policy, because you have basically the two sides, the Kamala camp and the Trump campaign, really with their character assassinations and kind of, I mean, come on, we're at a point where one campaign is calling the other campaign weird. Like, what does this do for anyone? I mean, this is like student council nonsense. So I feel like he has been able to kind of isolate himself away from that. Like he hasn't gotten sucked into the character assassinations that allows him to focus more on policy. So what do you think that he's bringing up when it comes to policy that the other candidates are preferring to ignore?
Well, I think he's bringing up the corporate capture of our agencies that are supposed to be protecting us, for one thing. The others don't want to address that. He's talking very straight about immigration policy and perhaps closer to President Trump's stance than the Democrats, because he's been to the border. He's seen firsthand that it's being basically run by the drug cartels, pouring fentanyl through tunnels into this country to we're killing thousands of our kids. And so he's calling for certain border closure to a point, and a wall, but at the same time legal immigration should be more emphasized, and there should be ways to make that happen. So, and on the middle class, he says that people can't afford to buy homes anymore because these big corporations like BlackRock are buying up all the houses. And, he talks about these things, and nobody else is willing to do that. So I think that, and also the wars, the war in Ukraine, for example, he said, we've got to negotiate with Putin on this. He wanted to negotiate. And yet the military-industrial complex is making a fortune off that war by providing all these weapons to Ukraine. So he's taking on all these stands because he's got a lot of moral courage, as his father spoke about, and he's really carrying on, I think, the Kennedy legacy in a way that is vitally important for our country.
Well, I mean, I think you raise a good point, how much foreign policy is going to come to the forefront, because obviously immigration and economy are very important in the minds of voters. But now with things heating up, now with this latest hit on the Hamas leader, people are going to really start to wake up to their own personal safety. with all of this going on. And so I do think that Trump proved himself when it comes to being a good leader in foreign policy. Kamala, I can't even imagine her dealing with anything foreign policy related, to be honest. Do you believe RFK Jr. is prepared to be a good leader when it comes to working with foreign leaders?
Oh, I absolutely do. And he's had a lot of experience. You know, he grew up with his father taking him to all these places and familiarizing him with the world situation. They used to have these debates at the dinner table, you know, where the kids would take different sides. He's faced a situation in his own family where his oldest son, Connor, his oldest son by a second marriage, you know, actually disappeared for a little while. Went over because he believed that you know, the Ukraine war was, he needed to if he's put his money where his mouth is. He went over and actually joined the Ukrainian army, put his life on the line. That's not what his father wanted. I mean, his father's very opposed to what's going on over there, but you know, he survived. He came back, and the thing is that it was an open discussion, and I think that's what Bobby brings. I mean, he's also been able to work with people on both sides of the aisle for many years, fighting for environmental causes and cleaning up the Hudson River and other areas through the Waterkeeper Alliance, and he works with commercial fishermen and with farmers. And you know, he's a guy who he's been to the bottom himself. I mean, he spent many years after his father's assassination as addicted to heroin. And when we were putting together the biography, The Real RFK Jr., which, you know, I would interview him every week or so about various things. You know, he wanted that to be talked about, because now he's calling for these centers where, you know, kids who could actually come together and work on sustainable agriculture on rural areas and farms across the country. I mean, it's good stuff and vitally needed with the current situation.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your insight, Dick. I'm out of time, got to get to my next guest, but so appreciate your insight on all of this and all of your work with your books. I encourage people to check them out, particularly The Real RFK Jr. You can find it on Amazon, support his work, and really get a full understanding of all these things with Dick's insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kristi. Great to be with you today.
You too. Well, up next, the propaganda campaign in overdrive, backed by the deep state controlled media, social media, and search engines. We're talking about that with a tech CEO. But first, got to hear from the sponsors that make this show possible. Please support them if you want to keep the counter narrative in the culture war conversation.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
I don't know about you, but I have to have that cup of coffee in the morning. And Kingdom Cup is mold-free, it is pesticide-free, and it is organic. It's got this flavor that is delicious. You don't even have to put cream or sweetener in it.
Why did we go with the bean form, the whole bean? Because ultimately the powder form is the one that gathers the most moisture. And that means the more potential mold development. This is actually organic, mold-free, certified. That's important because ultimately people drink coffee. It's cultural. And so we tried to meet the culture where it is and create a healthy alternative.
Make the healthy choice for you and your family. Try mold-free, pesticide-free, and it's organic. Delicious Kingdom Cup coffee. And it's available now at the Patriot TV store. Go to patriot.tv and click on store. You'll find Kingdom Cup coffee in the health and wellness section. Order Kingdom Cup coffee at the Patriot TV store now.
We recently switched from our convenient K cups to using the Kingdom Cup coffee, using the grinder, and all that good stuff. A little bit of extra work, if you want to call it that. But oh my gosh, so worth it. They're absolutely not lying. It doesn't need much sweetener at all. Tastes really nice and fresh. Huge difference. My husband and I are like, wow, that's what coffee is supposed to taste like. So make sure you get your Kingdom Cup coffee there at that Patriot TV store to support the show and support the network and get good coffee. Anyway, presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris is to hold her first rally with her running mate on Tuesday in Philadelphia, according to Politico. This is leading many, of course, to believe that she's going to pick Josh Shapiro, the Pennsylvania governor, as her VP choice. But, her campaign says, wait a minute, not so fast. No decision has been finalized. That choice is likely not make or break anyway, though, since, she already has the advantage of being propped up by so many forces in the propaganda puppet media. She's got Hollywood. We're watching as they try to rewrite history, covering up her failures, propping up her popularity when she was the least popular nominee before. Suddenly she's like, they're all like, oh, the energy, the crowds, but yet they need a free concert to bring in those crowds. In these attempts, Harris will likely try to now take credit for finishing Trump's border wall. According to MRC TV, the Biden-Harris regime will not appeal the court order to finish the wall this time. Wow, imagine that. Do not let them get away with this. Do not let them try to act like they care about the border all of a sudden. Since taking office, President Joe Biden refused to use the dedicated federal funds to continue building the wall to deter illegal immigration. And now we have the mess we have with fentanyl coming in at its highest record levels, women being raped and murdered by people that should not be here, that should have never been able to be in this country to begin with. Now, it is only the court order that was initiated on March 8th of this year that is now forcing their hand to finish the wall. And I'm sure they're going to try and take credit for that. Here to discuss is Andrew Riddaugh, CEO of Liberation Technology Services, a company at the forefront of the private cloud hosting industry, groundbreaking cybersecurity solutions, and the pioneer of liquid-cooled edge data centers. Wow, some of the stuff is above my head. So Andrew, come in here and help me out with some of this stuff. I know how important it is to have someone like you in this space because, as I said, boy, are we being manipulated, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And it just came out that the Google algorithm, surprise, surprise, is manipulating search results. And, Gemini, which is behind it, doesn't even acknowledge the fact that there was an assassination on former President Trump just a few weeks ago. So it is really ramping up, and we're seeing technology really start to play in on this election.
It's so brazen and blatant that it's just absolutely disgusting. I want to talk to you about these AI systems because that's truly alarming too. But first of all, I hate how there's never any accountability. When they're exposed, there's no acceptance that this is clearly intentional. I mean, Facebook was not allowing the historic picture of Trump's fist in the air. They were taking it down, saying that it had been altered in some way. When the actual AP picture was being shared, it was still not allowing it to be shown because someone else had altered a picture. It was so clearly just used as an excuse. Oh, of course, it was a mistake. Same thing when you have search results for Donald Trump, but yet Kamala is coming up or Donald Duck is coming up. I mean, it's so absurd. Now they're saying, oh, it was a mistake. We're so sick of there not being accountability for blatant election interference. But again, one of the most alarming things is what you have uncovered with the Google's AI. You can ask it about the Trump assassination and it acts like it never happened, right?
Yeah. Well, and this is just a, continuing trend that we see out of many of these technology companies. And it really is concerning because, back in 2020, 14% of surveyed Democrats said that if they would have known about the Hunter Biden laptop story, they would have never voted for President Biden. That right there is the election. Dr. Epstein, is estimating that potentially up to 25 million Americans could have their decision and vote swayed based by these technology companies. And we really have to call into question, right? These are the companies that say they're defending freedom and protecting democracy just along with the Democratic Party. But in reality, they are whitewashing the narrative and completely reshaping the policy here in the United States. And without real accountability, which unfortunately the Supreme Court did not do this session, they're going to be able to continue to do this without any sort of repercussion or being held accountable to the American people. And hopefully, under the next Trump administration, we can really make some change to that legislation.
So in the meantime, it's going to take we the people, as usual, to stick it to them, because we can't even rely on our elected representatives to do too much about any of these things. But before we move on to that topic and how we can do our small part in all of this, we were just playing video of some of the questions asked with that AI search. I mean, obviously it's alarming enough that it wouldn't even acknowledge that it had happened. But what were some other things you discovered when you continued to ask the system questions?
Yeah, so one of the things that a lot of people have to remember is, especially this is Chat GPT, but Google Gemini, which is behind the search engine, is showing the same exact results. And what we have to realize is, this is the same software that just a few months ago, if you typed in "give me an image of the founding fathers," would show you anything but an accurate description or depiction of those founding fathers. And so there's an inherent bias, in this technology. And, more so, I think we also have to realize that that bias is then being pushed onto us, the American people. And it's one thing for, a AI to be programmed to not weigh in on, election outcomes and predictions and things like that. But the assassination attempt was a piece of history. It was not a campaign activity. It was not some sort of politically driven search results. And for them to come back and just say, well, we're going to say this is politics and thus don't have to weigh in on it, that's whitewashing history. And, pretty soon, if Google and these other companies have it their way, this incident will never have happened.
So going back to an action plan, because again, I think we kind of play into the system sometimes too, where we just get enraged because we see like these shouting matches. I played one before, up on Capitol Hill, but we never see any actual accountability. Like that's always impeded, especially with rhinos and such. So it's really going to be small steps of us, the American people, sticking it to those that don't respect us and are trying to take down our country. So this is in part why you created Liberation Tech. So can you tell us how we can utilize it and how we can spread the word and fight back on our own?
Yeah. So just like you switched away from K-Cup to, spend your money with a more values aligned company, that's exactly what we've done with technology. So if you're using GoDaddy or Google Cloud, Microsoft Teams, Google Workspace, MailChimp, Constant Contact, a lot of those services, they're supporting the Democratic Party. They're supporting censorship. They're supporting oppression. And so instead of continuing to spend your money there and expecting a different result, but surprise, surprise, your emails, your communications are still getting censored, you can move over to our platform where we are protecting your data, your First Amendment rights, but we're also, working to better protect you from cybersecurity threats and not just political actions, but, cryptic and, other types of attacks. And so, it matters up to each and every one of us to make that cognizant decision, because I think everyone knows that, what goes on in Washington, D.C. is broken. There is no real meaningful change. But if 100 million Americans can start voting with their wallet, making that change, no longer supporting, Google, Amazon, GoDaddy, and companies like that, there will be a real impact. And those companies will have to acknowledge the fact that their DEI policies are hurting them, right? And this is still a capitalistic market. So if we continue to see the outpouring of support, the massive amount of people that are signing up every single day to come over to our platform and ditch those in California, we can make a real impact in a very short amount of time and, preserve the integrity of this election.
I think that making these changes can be intimidating for people. I love that you used my K-cup example because, it's just like, man, well, that's just so easy and I'm already so busy. But then in reality, when you make the switch, it's like, okay, this is totally worth the extra minute or two, to have something healthy that's going to be healthy for me. And I'm actually supporting a good cause. I mean, the same thing with this. There's been so many strides in building this parallel economy. This is a huge missing piece that you've addressed with your company Liberation Technology Services. And for those that might feel intimidated about making the switch, because it can seem like this mountain to climb, right? How do you walk them through that?
Yeah. I tell them to take it one step at a time. Yes, if you try to switch everything in your life over in one, period, that could be overwhelming. But, this week, why don't you switch your email? You can get set up with us in less than 5 minutes. And we have migration tools to make it very easy for you to still keep all of your information and not lose anything. And then the next week, maybe if you're a business owner, you want to migrate your website. And then the following week, you can ditch MailChimp and use Liberation Campaign. And if you need something built from scratch, we can have one of our US-based developers help you through that process and give you a product that is going to work, that is built by Americans, that you're going to be able to understand what they're talking about, and we're going to be able to ensure that we're delivering exactly what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And the thing is now is the time to be proactive, because you're going to have to deal with the headache probably eventually anyway, because how many stories do we need to hear about these companies stabbing customers in the back where they lose all of their content? If you're proactive now, you'll save yourself the headache later, because these companies are not your friend. They're your enemy. And in the long run, it's going to help your mental health, everything else.
Yeah, I've heard from so many people that, one morning they wake up and they find that they're locked out of their Google Drive because they violated the terms and conditions. The Google AI is going and looking through everything, making sure you're compliant. And if you're not, they just block you from everything. And there's usually very little recourse. So, we can help customers in some situations after the fact, but it's a lot easier if you can take your time, make that change. And, at the end of the day, we're only going to see it ramp up here in 2024 as we get closer to the election. But this is a reoccurring theme. So why stress every couple of years about this when you could just, get that peace of mind, that insurance, by moving your technology and your services over to an aligned company? It's very simple. We have tons of folks that are doing it. We have also some of the biggest names out there using our platform. We actually built and hosted Vivek's site and event platform. So, we're able to do everything from the mom and pop, the startup, the individual, all the way up to presidential campaigns and large scale companies.
Love that. Well, Andrew, we so appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for taking action, being a part of this solution, and really encourage folks to check out Liberation Technology Services and see what they can do for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kristi.
You bet. Up next, now that a Hamas leader has been taken out, what is the threat level to the U.S. for retaliation? We're going to get insight from Isik Abla, a former Muslim, now Christian, who was born in Turkey and raised to hate Jews and Christians. Wild story. We have that next. But first, let's hear from our sponsors.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to talk about a limited time offer of subscriptions to Patriot.tv and how you can become a member of our Patriot Defenders subscription club and become a member of Patriot.tv. Really, it's America's network. I call it the home of truth. And you can do that for only $9.99 a month. It's a great deal by itself, but what I'm going to walk you through here in these next few seconds is a couple of package deals that we have that are unbelievable. The next membership was the annual membership at $99 that you can save right away. You save $20 if you come in at the annual subscription rate.
The best deal that I think that people ought to seriously consider is the 2-year membership at $159. And it includes a special edition of my recently released documentary, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. So along with the 2-year membership, the 2-year subscription will send you a DVD combo of the film, plus an option to stream the movie online, as well as exclusive interviews of Tucker Carlson, Devin Nunes, and myself. So go to the home of truth, right? Go to patriot.tv today, sign up, seriously consider the 2-year subscription rate. It's an unbelievable savings. I think it's a total savings of about $70 from just signing up on a monthly or a annual basis. So thank you very much for your support. Patriot.tv is America's new network. Thank you.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0. When I invented My Pillow, it had everything you'd ever want in a pillow. Well, now there's new technology that makes it even better. My Pillow 2.0 has my patented fill combined with a cooling fabric with temperature regulating thread. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
Now's the time to go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use the promo code to save 50% on your MyPillow 2.0. Not only that, for a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
MyPillow.com. Yes, make sure you support Mike Lindell and My Pillow and Patriot TV at the same time. We just put a duvet cover. I was like, I was also procrastinating on putting the duvet cover on the My Pillow comforter because you know how that can be. But you know, it actually wasn't bad. You know, got it done and we love it. Love it, love it. So check out mypillow.com. So many things to choose from. Use Patriot TV to save even more. Now, as reported earlier, a Hamas leader was taken out. U.S. claims no involvement in this effort, but we're already seeing terror cells sending warning out for retaliation, perhaps against the U.S. Well, here to discuss is Isik Abla, President, CEO of Isik Abla Ministries, a former Muslim who is now spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. I always get a little bit nervous.
Perfect. No.
Good. Now, I want to start with, because you're going to have such amazing insight in what we're dealing with, all the latest developments, but I want to start with your testimony because it's so encouraging in dark times like this and helps us to understand where you're coming from with your insight on the potential threats that we're facing right now. So can you take me through your history?
Yes, of course. I was born and raised in Istanbul, Turkey, in a devout Muslim home, but very dysfunctional. And during the Civil War years, I grew up. It was bombings, killing people, each other in front of my eyes when I was a little girl. So I grew up with a lot of terrorism. Terrorist training building was next door to us, basically. We were seeing all these illegal weapons were coming in and out. And I just formed PTSD and other mental illnesses, fragmentation, being abused severely. Making a long story short, I fled to America for my life from an abusive, murdering situation. It was almost to a point from a fanatical Muslim husband. And I fled to America. And on the day I was going to commit suicide, I met Jesus Christ in a miraculous way, and he changed my life completely. And from that day on, I just started winning people to Christ, and then it formed into a ministry after September 11 and started growing rapidly, primarily in the Muslim world.
So amazing what you've been through and how you're able to use that trauma for good and to bring people's hearts and minds to Jesus Christ. But particularly what's happening right now, you know, you have insight of having seen what this looks like firsthand. Civil war looks like this is happening now. I feel like a lot of Americans are still kind of immune to it. They pick a side and they rail against without really knowing what's happening. What's your impression of what's been happening in the Middle East? From what I can tell, there has been violence on both sides, from Israel and to Israel. And so I don't believe God would want any of that happening when it comes to innocent families and children. And so what's your take on it?
Sure, thank you. First of all, I grew up being brainwashed for hating Jews and Christians. So, and Quran also told us in the Quran courses that we had to get the earth rid of them and get rid of them and do a genocide if we really loved Allah. And everything bad happened in the world was America's fault or Israel's fault. So first of all, let's keep that in mind. Whether in the education system or media, we see today, I watch Middle Eastern news because I learn a lot from how they see us right now, being an American, former Muslim, now a Christian woman. So I learn so much from what they are seeing right now and what they want us happen to us. And after all this assassination attempt and everything, they were expecting us to go into a civil war, and they want us to go into a civil war because they want to see America's economy and America's every moral structure and everything crumble and devastated and destroyed. So America for them is not a helper, even though America has been always helping the victims of wars or disasters or anything. They don't see that way in general. I'm not talking about the exceptions. So for that reason, they are Muslim, and I say they are, Muslims are wanting America to go into civil war. And that is why I'm so passionate to tell Americans, no, we shouldn't be going to civil war. We should be uniting and knowing who our enemy is.
Absolutely. And so I want you to speak to the threat level, because again, you grew up as a little girl seeing war like right in front of your face. And America has been pretty much immune to like not having to face the reality of that like on their own soil. But we have things heating up, and the Hamas leader that was just taken out, there's already talk of retaliation, even though the US is claiming they didn't have any direct involvement in that. How realistic is it that you think we'll see an attack on American soil in the near future?
I believe very much likely they are planning something right now as a backlash. I do believe with all my heart, if they are not going to sit and just watch what happened, and it's a big defeat for them, and they are going to blame America, they are going to blame Israel. By the way, we need to understand about Israel. They are in a war, we are in a war, and we don't want anybody to be killed. Obviously, we don't want anybody to suffer. Both sides, but Israel knows the mentality of radical Islam. So, just like as a witness, I explain it to you. They know how we grew up. They know what they taught in the schools to children in Gaza and how they were brainwashed. So Israel knows, and they are going to have an extreme protective and defensive and offensive mode right now to protect themselves. This is a very natural reaction of a nation that has been fighting for survival all its existence. So it shouldn't be a surprise to any of us. Of course, there are those coming from the spirit of darkness is going to they are going to do through the mainstream media, going to create all this manipulation and speculation to divide our country. So what happened with Hamas leader right now should make America more concerned about the homeland security. That is very weak right now, that our borders are very weak, and people can come in and out ridiculously easy to this nation, and that needs to be stopped, and we need to have extra security measurements. When September 11 came, which is very close to anniversary, we weren't expecting this. So there's a saying in the Middle East, when you feel safe, it doesn't mean you are safe. So when we feel safe and good right now, this doesn't mean nothing is going to happen. And we need to have all the precautions we can have right now to protect this country.
Yes, physical protections, but also spiritual protections, right? Because this is largely a spiritual battle. What opportunity do we have as Christ followers in this contentious time? What would you say about the faith component in the public square?
Absolutely. My husband and I are pastoring a church in Virginia Beach. The first thing we do is holding more prayer meetings and more prayer meetings. And we do general prayers, but we have specific prayer meetings for America, for our nation, for our borders, for Israel. So I am inviting people in faith in Christ. We need to unite, not to divide. This is not a time for us to divide, especially with the upcoming elections. Still, we need to, despite our differences, we need to unite because it is not over there right now. It is in our backyard. We need to take care of our backyard, and we need to take care of our borders, and we need to understand this is a spiritual war. Our fight is not against flesh and blood. Our fight is not even against Islam. It is the ideology and the demonic spiritual component of Islam we are fighting. And for that reason, we need to unite and we need to pray together.
As someone that was raised as a Muslim, I don't think we should discount evangelizing, obviously, to people of the Muslim faith. What would you say is the best way to do that as someone that was raised in this faith?
Yes, I can tell you the man that who was witnessing to me when I was a Muslim. He didn't preach at me. He didn't hit me with the Bible, but he showed me the love and goodness and kindness of Jesus Christ. I think that is what we can do. Even behind the veil, if they are all covered, all those women that you see, there's a hurting soul. Behind every veil, there's a hurting soul. And they need love of Jesus Christ. And that is the best witness to them.
Absolutely. Especially when depravity is being celebrated. I mean, I don't know what your reaction was to the Olympic opening ceremony. One impression I had was they certainly wouldn't mock the Islam religion like that now, would they?
Oh, no, if they did it, there wouldn't be Paris today. And it would be immediate war. They did it to us, of course, taking advantage of the spiritual climate of Europe right now and the Western world. And I used to talk about persecution in the Muslim world for Christians. Now we need to start talking about persecution in the Western world. And in America, there is a great level of double standards. And when I saw that, and I want to invite people, it's not good enough to just post things and ridicule them on our social media. It doesn't make us a good Christian. I think when I saw that, one thing I felt in my spirit was, I am going to speak Christ more. I don't need to defend Christ Jesus, but I am going to be like him more. I want to do better in my ministry, in my church, in my own personal life. I want to do better. I think if there's anything, this kind of wickedness and this kind of mocking our God should speak to us or do to us is, I am going to do better as a Christian, and I am not going to be a mediocre, lukewarm Christian anymore. I am going to stand for Christ.
So good. I think you're right on, and we should definitely have that as our takeaway. Isik Abla, thank you so much for your insight. I hope that our viewers will support your ministry. What's the best way they can do that?
They can just Google us or go to Facebook or all social media platforms to find us. ISIK ABLA, Isik Abla. They can find us very easily. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you for your part in the ministry. Thank you so much. All right, quick break, and we'll wrap things up on the other side.
Looking to give your wardrobe an upgrade? Well, look no further. Here at God Country & Kin, we've got you covered from head to toe, from shoulder to shoulder, and everything in between. Introducing our brand new Patriotic Collection, designed to display your patriotic spirit with a stylish look that's sure to turn heads. And the best part is, you don't have to break the bank to be your best you. Why wait? Visit us online or in-store today and elevate your style with God Country & Kin. God Country & Kin, where patriotism meets style. Shop now. Visit the Patriot TV store and look for the God Country Kin banner to find the perfect outfit, shirt, accessory, or maybe a great hat. You can totally see yourself rocking this hat. I know you can. And check out all the great stuff we've got to show your patriotism at patriot.tv.store. Click that link above that says store and join me there at the Patriot TV store.
What if this happened to you when you're alone? Or what if it happened here? With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The Care Watch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Don't wait. Call us to get your Care Watch right now. Operators are standing by.
All right, just a quick reminder, let the folks over at patriot.tv know you're watching this show. Go to patriot.tv/counter narrative. That's my personal landing page. You can watch all the former shows and become a Patriot Defender. You can do that at just $9.99 a month or save even more with a 1-year or 2-year membership. But it's important that you go to patriot.tv/counter narrative to sign up there. So again, they know that you value the counter narrative here on the Patriot TV network, and you can support all the other great shows that are happening right here. I want to quickly go over the verse of the day. Here it is, and it is from Proverbs 3:5-7. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. And if you'd like to join me, you can go to my locals page, just search for Kristi Leigh, or go to kristileighTV.locals.com, and you can do a daily devotional with me, 7:30 Eastern, Monday through Friday. We're tapping into the power of prayer like she was talking about. So join me in that effort over there. Thank you again for watching, and don't forget to share the counter narrative.
Now I'm on the right side.